I imagine people still wanted you to play, right? Like,
Yeah.
was there a moment that felt close? Like, okay, maybe I just do this and like do a 2-year deal or something.
Yeah. There was a bunch of offers and places I could have gone. And, that's where you're sitting down, like trying to weigh it in your mind, like trying to figure out if it's going to work and if it's something that I, wanted to go do. And I think ultimately it's like, I wasn't like 100% into it. And I think if you're not going to be at 100% into whatever idea, it's hard to justify like doing it in my mind. Like when I going into each season, you're ready to go and you're ready to give it your all. And, I didn't feel that. So
I don't know if this is a question or not. I need to say it. I need to say it to you. So I worked at ESPN for a long time, as you know.
okay.
And when you came back after you were hurt, and look, I grew up in New England, so I kind of started as a Celtics fan, but like once I was in the business, it wasn't the same, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you win or you lose. I kind of felt the same way, which I kind of miss. I kind of miss it, but it's definitely part of the resume for me. And everybody was so excited for you to come back, and you started 18 games in 18-19, and that team was a weird team.
Yeah.
You can go wherever you want, but like the lead up to this is that I found it to be like incredibly unenjoyable. I just didn't like what the makeup of that team was. And there was a storyline. And the reason I bring up those 18 starts is because of this, because I do work in the media. There are times where I'll get information and I'll think, is that worth sharing? And one of the talking points, I remember Stephen A was on First Take talking about it. And he was like, when Brad Stevens let his guy, Gordon Hayward, like get his starting spot back, that like ruined the team. And I thought, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm at home watching it going,
Yeah.
if you're Gordon Hayward with your resume and you're healthy, you get your starting spot back. That's just the way the league works. And it still was only 18 games. And here we were into March, and the team was generally disappointing. And it felt like other players were saying that, like, I go, that makes me think that players are saying to Stephen A that, that's kind of when the locker room was lost. And on top of that, I thought, well, if you're saying that run of you starting games disrupted the season, that means this is the softest mental team ever. I don't know how much of that made its way back to you, but I remember being, and I don't even know you, so it wasn't like I was mad because we're friends. I was mad at the structure of that topic, knowing that you probably had teammates that were saying, because he had to have been getting it from someone to share it. So the floor is yours, because I don't have
that was a lot.
Question.
That was a lot.
It was way too much.
No, I mean that season was definitely the hardest season of my career, like easily. And I went and I talked on PG's podcast a little bit about it, but it was something where, like, obviously changed the course of the rest of my career being injured, but I think also really helped the young guys that were there. I mean, there is nothing better, in my opinion, than being able to play through mistakes, gain experiences, and me getting hurt certainly helped JT and JB develop faster. Now, they would have developed anyways. I don't know if anyone thought they were going to be as good as they were going to be back then, like when they were drafted. And it was just something that it just helped them do it faster. I mean, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals that year, and Kyrie got hurt too. So also, Terry Rozier's able to develop as a starter. And so going into that next season, there was just so many people on our team were, first off, the expectations were ridiculous because on paper, we were the best team in the league by far, like talent wise. But it was something that we all had our own individual agendas. The young guys are trying to prove that they're all-stars. I'm trying to prove that the season before I got injured, I was an all-star and felt like I was one of the better wings in the league. So I'm trying to prove I'm trying to get back there. Kyrie got hurt, so he's trying to prove it's his team. We also had Marcus Smart. Terry's trying to prove he's a starter. Marcus Smart trying to prove he's a starter, all defense. Marcus Morris, Al Horford. I mean, we probably had 7 or 8 guys that had career highs of 40 all on the same team, which is pretty unheard of. And, and then you have the talking points of like, I shouldn't be getting these opportunities. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, I'm not getting any opportunities compared to what I was getting in Utah. So how is everyone even complaining like Gordon's getting the ball too much? And I'm like, it was like one of my lowest usage rate seasons of my career. So I'm sitting there like, I'm not even getting the ball to do anything. How is everyone complaining I'm getting the ball too much? And I'm trying to come back from a major injury too. So it was a chaotic season. It's disappointing how the whole thing went. I think it just shows like you got to have a team that meshes together well. That it's not all about just the talent that you have and who's on the roster and all this stuff. Like you got to have a team that blends well together. And for whatever reason, that year we couldn't make it work. I mean, I think we were just two similar positions. And like I said, guys are trying to prove themselves more than play, with each other. But certainly they've figured it out now, and I couldn't be happier that the Celtics won. I mean, I have no ill will toward anybody, and just have great relationships still with guys there. So, happy for Brad and Joe and JT and on Al and JB and the guys that I played with. It's great for the Celtics.
Yeah, that was after I saw the rant because it was late in the year. I had to go look at it again because he didn't even start that many games, and then it was 18. And you're right; it's the lowest usage rate of your career, other than your rookie year, and then the last year of Oklahoma City.
Well, that was why it was like the narrative and the storyline just didn't even make sense, and it was also, it was the whole thing was just it was set to fail. I mean, it was just a lot, and I think Brad too didn't know what to do, as a coach, because I basically joined the Celtics in large part because of Brad and because we had such a great history, and I think he's an amazing coach, and but then he's got all these. You try navigating all these different storylines as a coach. Like, what are you supposed to do? You're trying to figure out what's best for your team, and so it was tough. Certainly tough. Definitely the hardest season of my career.
Okay, so there's another thing from that, and I promise I'll jump around here because I don't want to just do Celtics, but
sure.
I always thought it was interesting, like hearing kind of the vibe on the team, and that like Kyrie, who, I talked about Derrick Rose in the open of the show today, and I go, there's just certain basketball players that other basketball players are so enamored with because they see some of the stuff that they do that is so special that it's like, what do you think of Kyrie's career? There's this level of reverence for him, like a Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook, like just like, how do these guys do this against other NBA players?
Yeah.
And so I think it always feels like Kyrie has like more fans in the NBA than, some of us, and I'll put myself in that group because of the up and down parts of his career, like as opposed to the media. But in the beginning, like he wasn't an older player, but it felt like maybe he was trying to like act like this old grizzled vet to like Jaylen Brown and Tatum. And it felt like Jaylen Brown like pushed back on it a little bit, but now it feels like Jaylen loves Kyrie and it's come full circle. What is that dynamic like, and maybe helping us better understand two personalities like that?
You mean like the dynamic between Kyrie and the younger guys, or what?
Because it felt like specific to Jaylen, and maybe I'm asking you too much to be like, what do you want me to do? Project where their heads were at 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where they're at now. But it felt like a full circle moment. And maybe it's just being young and then being in the league a little bit more. But I always thought it was kind of funny that Jaylen Brown's like, I don't need this. And then it's very clear that he's a massive Kyrie fan now. I don't know. I don't know if there's a perfect answer in there, but I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about with our own individual agendas. I mean, and first and foremost, I mean, let me say, I think the reason why a lot of NBA guys are enamored by Kyrie is just his talent is unreal. I mean, he is definitely the most talented player that I've played with. He does things on the court where you're just like, how the hell did he just do that? And a lot of times I didn't even it's not like I saw him practicing like his finishes and all this stuff. Like he's got this natural ability, especially in big moments where he just pulls out things and you're just like, did he just like what you're like trying to figure out what he did. And I think that's what a lot of NBA guys respect is his skill. It's just his skill level. And he can do anything on the court that you want him to do. I think as far as your question goes, I mean, I think it goes back to like, Jaylen and Jason are, obviously at the top of the league right now, but back then they're trying to, they want to get there and they're trying to prove that they can get there. And, so I think Kyrie's kind of was at that level back then. And then, so he's trying to say like, look, like it's my team. And that's why there were just so many different narratives that were going on.
Was it just easier in Utah?
It was, it was definitely, we didn't have that in Utah. We definitely did not have that when I was in Utah for sure. And it was completely different.
It'd be crazy to, you said like, hey, moving forward or whatever, and maybe you're a better person than I am. But did you ever allow yourself to go, what if I just never left Utah?
I mean, I certainly have thought about it.
Sure.
I mean, it's definitely crossed my mind. It's just, you never, it's hard to play that game. You know what I mean? The what if game is so tough to play. I mean, it's like,
it's totally pointless, but I'd be shocked if you never did it. Right.
Absolutely. It's completely pointless. I mean, it crosses my mind a lot because like I said, that my whole career changed when I got injured. I mean, and I was relatively healthy, like really healthy throughout my first 7 years in the NBA. And then I have the major injury in Boston. And then it's like every year it's like some sort of freak injury. It seems like every year something goes wrong. I break something, I grade 3 ankle sprain, like all this different stuff. And it's probably a lot stems from that main injury and your body compensating and all that. But it's hard not to think like, well, what would have happened to my career if I wouldn't have gotten injured? And I think I was just proud of, I was able to get back to, in my mind, I felt like I was able to get back to the player that I was. I mean, when I went to Charlotte, that was part of the reason I think I said when I left, like I felt like I wanted to still maximize who I was as a player. And in Boston, it wasn't going to be like that because we just had too much talent. But going back, I felt like I saw some of my best games as a Charlotte Hornet. So for me, like I felt like I kind of got back to where I was, and that was another, like I was at peace with where I ended up as a player and everything. But certainly you could play that what if game forever,
I might be fishing for a LaMelo answer here, but if you look over your career, who is your favorite young guy that you played with?
Favorite young guy?
Because now, if you don't say LaMelo, then maybe I cause you a problem. So I don't know. Maybe you can pass on this one if you want to, because you just finished up at Oklahoma
favorite
City.
Would be a loose term. I mean, I don't know if I have a favorite. I've been lucky to have great teammates everywhere I've been, which I think is not you. Everyone can't say the same thing. I really enjoyed Jason when I was in Boston. We sat next to each other on the plane, and so we were able to have conversations about just life outside of basketball, just everyday things. And that was a lot of fun to get to know him because I was, I didn't really, he was, I think 18 or 19 whenever I first joined. And, he's a young wing and obviously all this potential, so much potential, but at that point in time, I had 2 kids. I mean, I was way older and he's probably looking at me like I'm just this guy's so old, but just getting a chance to know him and sit next to him and just kind of shoot the shit, was a lot of fun. So
old, you're like 28.
Right. But, I remember I came in at 20 and there were people that are 30 and you're looking at them like, damn, this dude is ancient. Like he's a dad. Like, you know what I mean? Cause you're just a kid then. And so, and here I am at 34 acting like I'm old. I'm not old. Like,
no, this guy's talking about a 401k. What the hell's that? So, all right. I think the easy answer, the easy question would be like, okay, so you just spend a run with Oklahoma City, and this is also a really young team, and they've got like big time aspirations already. I mean, who knows? A couple of shots here or there against Dallas. Who knows? Maybe they're in the NBA Finals, right? How would you describe the Thunder? Not experience, because I know why it's different, but maybe the young guys with the Thunder as opposed to those early years with Boston. Is there a difference that you can think of that is worth talking about?
Yeah, I would say the difference is that I would say probably the biggest difference is they have a clear cut number one guy in Shea. Whereas in Boston, I don't think that was established initially, so I think there was, and that's why they like JT and JB had all this back and forth in the media and all this. I think one was trying to outshine the other. And now I think they're probably good with the whole thing. But in Oklahoma City, it's like Shea plays one position, Jalen Williams plays another, Chet plays another. Like it's way easier, I think, to develop like that, where you're almost not as much competing with each other. But certainly similarities with the two and just the talent level that OKC should have make another good run this year. I think they picked up some good pieces. And part of it's just staying healthy. You got to be healthy. But I mean, we were right there. Yeah, there was multiple shots that could have gone down where OKC is playing Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I mean, PJ Washington doesn't turn into Steve Kerr.
That's right. I was joking with PJ. I'm like, where was that in Charlotte?
Or where was that in the NBA Finals, man?
Yeah.
Look, it was a lot of fun to see you at Butler and then just tear it up with Utah. And, I know the play of that night, is kind of like this defining equator of your career, man. But I'm really happy for you to be able to walk away now and then, to get everything going with Whiskey Creek. Again, Notice to Quit out tonight in theaters nationwide. And you're one of the NBA guys that started a production company that's actually making stuff.
Right.
I'll see announcements every now and then. I'll be like, that dude?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too.
Is he on a two-way?
Well, that's the other thing is a lot of sports guys make production companies, but then it's all like sports movies and you get like pigeonholed into sports movies. This movie has nothing to do with sports. It's a great, it's a feel good story, like you said, about family and the grit of New York City. So thanks for having me on, man. Everyone's got to check out the movie Notice to Quit. It'll be, around the country.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. Thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you. See ya.